Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now, Lesbian Detectives. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready to go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, the Lesbian Detectives.
This is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
We are here talking about missing and unsolved murders.
We are discussing cases that you have forgotten about or never even heard of.
So sit back, relax, and let's start this podcast. Welcome back, everyone. And I know it's kind of late, but happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I know it's like a couple days ago, but I forgot to say it in the last podcast, so I'm saying it this one. So happy Mother's Day to the moms-to-be, to the moms that got like 18,000 kids, or the mom who got like one kid, like me. Happy Mother's Day.
I don't know how y'all do it. We're one and done.
Right. I am completely done having kids. She's amazing, but whoo.
They're a lot of work.
Them three-nagers are a trip. But this case right here is a doozy. And I kind of talked to some of my podcasting friends and lovers of true crime, and none of us could agree what we thought the sex of the person that actually unalived this person was. We was all kind of like in between.
It could be anyone.
Yeah, but when we get to theories, you guys gonna see why we was on a toss-up.
Okay.
Now, let's get into the case. It was a quiet Sunday night in late August of 1975. The kind of Texas even the skies turn to a velvet and the heat finally breaks. A young woman, newly married and just 18 years old, had dinner with her parents. They laughed, talked, and said goodnight around 8:30 p.m. She was dropped off at her modest home she shared with her husband, a small place nestled in a peaceful neighborhood. He wasn't home. He worked nights just a short drive away at a local pizza restaurant. She settled in, watched a little television, then called her husband at work. She told him she might drop by later to visit, maybe bring a puzzle book, keep him company while he closed up. But she never made it there. When her husband called around 10 p.m., there were no answer. He didn't worry, not yet. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe she'd gone to her parents again. He went back to work, wiped down the tables, swept the floor, and locked up. And then he drove home. The lights were off. The house was still. But in the carport, just steps from the door, was her body. She was stabbed 17 times. Her clothes were disarrayed, but the scene suggests something even stranger. Though it appears she was sexually assaulted, she hadn't been. She was left there, partially undressed, in a pool of her own blood. Inside the home, a kitchen window was shattered. Glass sparkled across the floor, but there was no blood inside. It seemed she made it out before the attack, likely on her way to see her husband, when someone stopped her. Near her body lay a pen, a crossword book, and her keys. Her purse was gone. The house was untouched, her jewelry still on her wrist, the car door locked. The back door to the home, usually kept secure, was unlocked. Police searched the neighborhood. One man remembered seeing a strange car parked in the driveway earlier that night, but it was gone by the time her parents dropped her off. No one heard her scream. No one saw her kill her. Days later, a knife was found, discarded on the side of the highway. It was tested quietly, but no conclusions were ever released. But then something even more disturbing surfaced. Her wedding photo album missing, vanished from the house. Maybe taken by a loved one in grief. Maybe taken by the one who ended her life. For a time, suspicion pointed into all directions. A man far from town confessed, but the details didn't match. The layout of the house, the color of the walls, the manner of the unaliving, and beside, he was hundreds of miles away that night when it happened. Years passed, the case went cold. But in the darkness of unsolved death, time can be both an enemy and an ally. Decades later, a new set of eyes reviewed the evidence. Modern tools, DNA, forensics, might be able to do what old hunch could not do. Evidence was sent to a private lab. Somewhere a sample waits for a match. And the question remains, who knew she'd be home alone that night? Who waited in the shadows of a quiet street? And why, all these years later, has no one spoken? The truth is still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. This is the case of Deborah Sue Williamson. It was a warm Sunday evening in late August of 1975. The kind of night that felt like summer was honed on at its fingertips. 18-year-old Deborah had spent the day with her parents. Dinner was quiet, uneventful, just the comfort of a family, the clicks of silverware and small talk that will be remembered for years to come, for what it didn't reveal. By 8:30 p.m., the family had finished their meal and driven Debbie back to her modest home in Texas she shared with her husband, Doug. They'd only been married for 3 months. Doug was at work that evening, managing his shift at a local pizza restaurant, not far from their home. Alone in the house, Debbie settled in for a quiet night. She watched a bit of television, then she called Doug to say she'd come by the restaurant later to visit while he finished up. That visit never happened. At first, Doug wasn't alarmed. It was easy to imagine Debbie getting caught up in a TV show, maybe too tired to head back out. But when he called their home around 10 p.m. and got no answer, a civil of uneasiness cut through his thoughts. He brushed it off, reasoned she might go to her parents' home nearby. By the time he closed up shop around 1 a.m., he drove home with the unusual rhythm of the routine until it shattered at the sight in front of him. In the carport, under the yellow glare of the interior lights, lay Debbie, motionless, bleeding, brutal stab and discard between the family car and a wall. Doug dropped the pizza bag and ran to her, his voice shaken by shock as he called the police. When the first officer arrived, Doug could barely form words. "My wife, she been raped," he whispered, pointing a trembling hand at the lifeless body. Debbie lay on her back. Her pants and underwear were pulled partially down. Her blouse was open. Blood pooled beneath her and trailed in the thin streaks of the concrete. She had been stabbed 17 times in her back, her arm, her face, and her torso, even the scalp. The rage of the attack was as chilling as methodical in precision. Yet, despite her state of undress, the autopsy revealed no sign of sexual assault. She had died around 10 p.m., the very hour Doug had called the house. The investigators descended on the Williamson house. A broken kitchen window suggests a forced entry, though curiously the glass was shattered inside, implying that the break occurred before or during her attempt to flee. There were no signs of struggle inside the house. Instead, it seemed Debbie had been preparing to leave. Her car keys, a crossword book, and a pen lay near her body. Doug later explained that she loved to work on puzzles while waiting for him to finish working. Her purse, which held $120 in cash, was missing. The detailed puzzle investigators. Robbery didn't fit clearly as a motive. Debbie still wore her wedding ring and a watch. The car was locked, untouched. No item was stolen from inside. But the back door was found unlocked. Odd, given how meticulous Debbie was about keeping things secure. Police issued a bulletin asking locals to look for Debbie's missing purse, a faded blue bag with a rusted colored wallet, a checkbook, and a personal paper. They also canvassed the neighborhood repeatedly. One neighbor reported a large unfamiliar car in Debbie's driveway hours before the murder, but it had vanished by the time her parents dropped her off. The vehicle was never identified. Doug was quickly ruled out as a suspect. His co-workers confirmed he hadn't left the restaurant during the critical hours. He cooperated with the police, grieving openly, bewildered by the senseless. I can't imagine who do that. Whoever it was, hard to know. I was at work and she was alone, he said.
2 days later, a driver reported a knife with an 8-inch blade lying in the middle of Lubbock Highway. It was sent to the state crime lab, but investigators couldn't confirm whether it was the murder weapon. Fingernail scrapings from Debbie's body were collected and sent for testing. But in the pre-DNA era, technology had its limits, and so did the evidence. No usable prints, no blood trails, no leads. Then another oddity emerged. Debbie and Doug's wedding photo album had vanished. Her family was adamant it had been in the house for the night of the murder. Had the killer taken it as a grotesque trophy? Or had a grieving relative moved it without realizing the implications? Weeks passed, then months. Hundreds were interviewed. Polygraphs were administered. Every lead disintegrated like smoke. The case, like so many others, went cold. In 1979, 4 years after Debbie's murder, a nonprofit offered a $1,000 reward for information. Police hoped it might unearth a hidden truth. Many pieces of the puzzle are in place, said Detective Sergeant Doyle Nelson, but someone out there has the missing piece. The silence, however, remained unbroken. Then came a name, Henry Lee Lucas, a drifter whose web of confessions made headlines. In May 1984, Lucas confessed to killing Debbie. Lubbock police charged him, but not everyone was convinced. Least of all Debbie's stepfather, Bob Lemons. They're using Henry to close the case, he said. He didn't do this. The inconsistencies in Harry's story were glaring. He described a white house. Debbie's was olive green. He claimed he entered through a back patio door, which was actually blocked by furniture. He insisted he raped and killed her in the bedroom. Debbie had been attacked outside and hadn't been raped. Worse, travel records placed Henry in Maryland on the night of the murder. Even so, it took over a year for officials to drop the charges. In August of 1985, the Lubbock District Attorney conceded there were no evidence to prosecute. The case was reopened the following year, but without new leads, it went dormant once more. Nearly half a century later, the case remains unsolved. In 2021, a fresh set of eyes were assigned. A new detective combing old reports, looking for anything others might have missed. By January of 2022, evidence was submitted to a private lab for DNA testing. Debbie's sister, Liz Flatt, clung to hope. We won't know until the results come in if the DNA has been found, she said. But maybe, just maybe, we'll finally get a name. As of April 2023, the name has not come. The night of August 24th, 1975, still hangs over Lubbock like a shadow, sharp-edged and silent. A young woman's life was stolen in the dark, and someone has kept that secret for decades. But secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks, and sometimes, even after 50 years, the dead still speak. Before we end this case, let's sit back and remember the young woman who lost her life. She was just 18. Deborah Sue Williamson was the kind of girl who people remembered, not for anything flashy, but her warmth, her kindness, the way she made people feel seen, listened to, cared for. She had her whole life ahead of her, a newlywed, barely 3 months into her marriage, living in a quiet home in Lubbock, Texas. She was building a life, one filled with ordinary, beautiful moments, dinners with family, phone calls with her husband, crossword puzzles while waiting for him to finish work. August 24th, 1975 was one of the ordinary days. She went out to dinner with her parents that Sunday evening. Nothing unusual, just family, just conversation, just love. They dropped her off at home around 8:30 p.m., and she planned to visit her husband later at the pizza parlor where he worked nights. But Deborah never made it. When her husband came home after his shift, he walked into something no one should ever have to see. Deborah, his young bride, was lying lifeless in the carport, stabbed 17 times, her body partially undressed, but not sexually assaulted. Her purse missing, her keys still on the ground beside her. The scene was brutal, personal, and completely senseless. The police couldn't find a motive. The house hadn't been robbed. Nothing else was missing, not even her wedding rings. It didn't make sense. A shattered kitchen window hinted a forced entry, but there was no blood inside. Deborah had likely made it outside, maybe with her keys in hand, ready to drive to the pizza parlor, where she was ambushed. In the days that followed, there were theories. A neighbor mentioned a strange car in the driveway earlier that night. A knife was found abandoned on the highway. Her wedding photo album mysteriously vanished from the house, but none of it brought clarity. None of it brought justice. Even worse, a man later confessed, Henry Lee Lucas, a serial confessor known for making up stories just to please investigators. His version of that night didn't match the evidence. He said the house was white. It was olive green. He said he attacked her inside. She died outside. He was in Maryland that day, but for a time, his confession almost became the truth. Until Deborah's family, especially her stepfather, pushed back. They knew the facts. They knew Henry didn't do it. They knew the real killer was still out there. And all the while, time kept moving. Leads ran dry. Files grew dusty. Deborah's case became a cold case. But what never faded, what never will, is the memory of who Deborah was. She was a daughter, a sister, a wife, a young woman who loved puzzles and family dinners. Someone who should have grown old, surrounded by children, grandchildren, laughter. Someone who deserved a full, long life. Now, nearly 50 years later, there's still hope. In 2022, her case was reopened. Evidence was sent for advanced DNA testing. Her sister, Liz, is still waiting. Still hoping that somewhere in all that silence, there's one last answer waiting to be found. Deborah Sue Williamson is not just a name in a file. She was real. She was loved. She mattered. And someone, somewhere, knows the truth. This is the case of Deborah Sue Williamson. Now let's get into some theories.
Theories.
Let's get into some theories. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories. Lesbian Detectives. What type of thoughts you thinking? What theories running through your mind? I'm thinking all types of suspicion. Uncover the truth, what we can find. Witness say they saw somebody creeping out the back door. What you think they did it for? That's so crazy, I'm not sure. They found a car, where could she be? Here go another puzzle piece. Research and do your history. It's plenty unsolved mysteries. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories, yeah. Let's get into some theories. Let's get into some theories. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories. Lesbian detectives.
You or me?
Go ahead.
I have 3 theories.
Okay.
So we can play is it possible or is it not?
All right.
The first one, what if the husband did it, but he had somebody working with him? So the time she was unalive, he called the phone. That's crazy right there. What if that person, like, that was like their signature? Okay, wait until the phone ring and then that's when you attack. I mean, possibility, we never know. And it seemed like how she was staged and everything around, it seemed like it was a kind of jealousy lover situation. Like, you got my man. And that brings me to my second clue. What if he wasn't involved? What if he was having an affair and this person was jealous? Like, hey, I want to be with you, but I don't want you being with her. And he like, no, we're married. We've been together for this many years. Because think about it, they was kind of like high school sweethearts. They was 18 years old.
Right.
So that's another thing to me, because I always sit back and think about the wedding album. I'm like, somebody gonna steal a wedding album, it's gonna be a female. A male ain't gonna do it. If it was a guy, a male ain't gonna do it.
Right.
And then for her like to pull the clothes down, like, and like partially undressed, it seemed like a woman trying to say, hey, she might was sexual assault. Like, that's what the police probably think. And then busting the window and making it look like, oh, it was glass on the floor. That's what happened. That's crazy. And I did look up how much $120 was back then and how it is now. It was $730 some now.
Oh, okay.
So that basically a lot of money back then. So my third one thing is that she probably did have a stalker and they did not like her with her husband. She probably kept having no's. And they probably like, hey, be with me, be with me. And she didn't want to be with them. And then they unalive her. So that's my 3 things. But guys, to be honest, I'm more on number 2 and number 1. That was my main 2. And I'm like, could be something.
Yeah, so whenever I was listening to the case, I actually did think it was the husband, because they were like, okay, why didn't you call? And he always had like an excuse. And then the alibis too. Like, he could have convinced his coworkers to like just say, oh yeah, he was here. Maybe he stepped out for a few. Like, you don't know. It doesn't really make sense. It's very sketchy.
Like, this whole thing, like back then, like 1975, they wouldn't think like how we probably would. But I only think it's the husband and a lover, only because it's just something how she was stabbed. When I look up people who are stabbed, it's a personal. It's very personal, because you have to get into that person's face. How she was stabbed, this thing about that rage, like, you got my man. I gotta kill you because I want my man. I want my man. He's young. He probably grieved, like, okay, we gotta keep it low for a couple months, and then, we can be seen out there for a while. I don't know.
Right.
It is something then breaking the window that seemed very, like, they try to make it seem like something happened that night. It doesn't add up. Because think about it. Her purse was stolen, and then it seemed like a sexual assault, and then the window was busted. Then the door was, you're doing too much.
Yes.
Pick one thing. Pick one thing.
I don't think I've heard of a robbery, a rape, and just destruction all around, personal vendetta. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. They were clearly trying to make a scene, but one thing that you cannot overlook is that personal vendetta, because of the times that they stabbed her. It was 17 times. Like you said, the wedding book, the wedding pictures, somebody took it. It's all too personal. And then you took the purse. Okay, how does that make sense? How does that fit in? Yeah, it doesn't. The clothes being ripped and pushed down, it doesn't make any sense. But then there was like no sexual abuse. It doesn't.
And then also, while I think it might be a lover, guys, like, stay with me right quick, because you're like, Sierra, you got a lot of theories. The car was in the driveway. Thinking about that, you remember the neighbor said, yeah, I seen a car while she was at her parents' house in the driveway. It was this unfamiliar car. What if he had his side piece at his house and they like did that bang bang and they're talking about unaliving her. Because it doesn't seem like, I tried to look this up and I can't, probably because it was so far back in time that I can't get this information. But correct me if I'm wrong, it didn't seem like he was at the family dinner because her parents drove her home. They had a car in the park, like they had a car. But it doesn't seem, because she was going to drive to his job. So it seemed like they both had a car. So did he drop her off, was there, had dinner with the family, or just talk a little bit, say, hey, I got to go to work. And then he probably went home, had his little rendezvous, talk about how he's going to commit the unaliving. And then he went to work to get an alibi. Because you always know the first person the police going to look at is the spouse. I feel like he probably was at work. He had to make sure his coworkers saw him. Like, hey guys, yeah, I'm at work. Because I'm thinking about, if he was so like, if he called her to see, hey, where are you and you're not here yet, why he didn't call her again and again and again? He only called her one time to check why she wasn't here yet.
Right. He came to his own conclusions. But honestly, like the type of person that I am, I would come to every other conclusion than, oh, you're okay. Like I would keep calling. I would probably have somebody come by and check on you. Like I wouldn't just dismiss it like that. I just want to know, if it was the husband, what was the reason? What was the motive for him wanting to unalive her?
What if his family didn't believe in divorces? He really say he wanted to be with this other chick, but him and Debbie was the perfect couple. Think about that. Let's sit back and think. Him and Debbie was a perfect couple. Everybody wanted them together. Everybody believed that they the perfect couple. They would have the white picket fence, everything. They got young married. They're going to have a good life. But what if he didn't want that life and he could not get out of it? And he like, well, you know what? And he's in love with this other chick. Let's call her Suzanne. He's in love with Suzanne. And he like, me and Suzanne, I want to be with you, Suzanne, but I can't not leave her because everybody going to look at me certain way. Everybody going to hate me.
I wonder, did he move on after she...
I try my best to look for that. I'm telling you, probably because it's 1975 that I could not find Doug information. If anybody know, please let me know. But I looked on you. I typed in his name, couldn't find nothing. It was a lot of names came up, but I could not figure it out.
And then the reward, it was by a nonprofit organization. If I was the husband, I would want to do everything in my power to try and solve this murder. And that is even including a reward. I don't know if he reached out to the nonprofit or if it was by a relative or a loved one or friend, who knows. But I would try and do everything in my power. I would bother the police until I couldn't anymore and try and figure this out. It's just, I don't know, something sketchy about the husband.
Because it seemed like it's the phone call. I always get stuck on the phone call. You call her at 10 p.m. and she died at 10 p.m. I believe in like things happening, you know?
Coincidences?
Yes, I believe in that. But that's too big of one. That's way too big. Because it seemed like they always was talking. Like she called him and work. They was always talking. I'm just saying, if she should have been at his job around 10 p.m., right? And she wasn't there. He called the house and said, hey, where you at? You're not here. I'm thinking, why he didn't call at 11 or 12? He got home around 1. So he just kind of let it slide a little bit. Because I'm being honest, guys, I would have called back like 2 or 3 more times. And I'm like, okay, she probably going to sleep then. I would kept calling for a second. He just assumed that she went to her parents' house. I would have called and said, hey, like, is Debbie? I mean, it's certain things that I would have done, but it seemed like how he was calling to check in on her to see if she was on her way. It seemed like he would did those other steps too. I don't know if it's just me, but I get that feeling that he would have. He would have did that extra step. It's just something seems fishy, but I feel like the police saw him as a grieving husband, heartbroken. My wife been unalive, but I can put money on it. If anybody can find out, please inbox me with everything you got. I bet you he was remarried a year or 2 later. Put on everything.
Possibly.
Because you hear it's her family doing the work. The stepdad was like, no, this man did not unalive my daughter. The stepfather, I bet you, what's his name? Doug was like, yeah, I think he did it. And this about hearing for a second. Did we check on that another case that could be similar to the one that he said he could have done? Like, you know, here he said, oh, I raped her and her bed, and then the house was this color and this. What if he did commit those crimes, but it wasn't Debbie, it was another woman?
Well, he was known to be a serial confessor.
But sometimes you got to listen to them a little bit. Like, what if a crime that did commit in that way did really happen.
I know, but we're kind of stepping out of the scope now. Like, we're focused on Deborah, but they can't link the two because he
Yeah.
was in Maryland. But it seemed like, like the stepdad was doing more. He knew his daughter a little bit more, or had a better headspace or clear mind to what happened than like the husband. The husband's kind of all over the place. And when it's a marriage about two people, that kind of gives it away. Like, who else would care about that marriage? Like, her mom's, like nobody, his mom, like nobody else would really care unless it's the husband or the mistress. I also agree with you on that theory.
But what if I wonder who was the person that said the photo album was missing. I don't think it was Doug. Because I'm thinking about me. Someone just unalive you, knock on wood, it never happened. But someone just unalive you. I'm gonna look at our wedding pictures. I'm gonna look at all our pictures and I won't say video because they probably have video cameras like old tapes and stuff like that back in the day. But I'm just sitting back like I will look at that thing. I will look at all that, but it seemed like it probably was her family, like probably bossing herself up or going through things. I don't think it was him. I don't think it was Doug that said the photo album was missing. I think it was somebody else. Or he could like F it, like I'm done. I don't know. I just think he played the grieving husband very well and the police believed him.
Yeah.
But it's something, I don't know. It's how it is. The purse was missing. All this stuff was missing. Her watch, because I'm thinking about a robbery. If I'm going to lie to somebody to take their stuff and she had her keys on the ground. Her keys. I'm getting her a purse. I'm getting her keys. I'm getting her wedding ring, her watch. I'm getting in the car and I'm gone.
Yeah, because you only have a limited amount of time. You can't do everything at one time. So either you stick to the theft or you stick to the physical sexual abuse or, personal vendetta. Like it was planned. Like they knew a lot about the house in a way, but then it was really like messy. It's like at the end they were trying to scramble, trying to hide the tracks and trying to basically pinpoint different directions.
Stay with me. It's something that everybody knew about Debbie. She's kind of like me. We keep everything locked and protected. The back door was unlocked. What if the person came in that way and they waited and the phone call was a signature? When you hear the phone ring, that's when you attack her because that's when she leaves. It's something with that phone call. For him to call around that time and she died, that's very important to me. The back door is always important to me because her family said Debbie did not leave that door unlocked. She always locked it. That's one thing about her. She's locking that door. But that door was unlocked. What if that's how the person came in to unalive her? And the person is waiting behind something, like hiding behind darkness. And they're waiting and they're waiting. And they know when that phone call happened, that's when they attack, right? So the phone call happened, but Debbie's already outside. She's like already leaving, packing up, leaving. Like, oh shoot, I missed my window. Because what if the murder's supposed to happen inside, not out? Because outside, it seemed too
Risky, but they still did it.
Yeah, because they had to do it. They just had to do it. So they started like, oh, stab. Okay. Well, I gotta remember. They're like, oh, let me take her purse. Oh shoot, let me fix her clothes. Like they had to remember things. Like, oh, let me bust a window to seem like the person came through the window. So they bust the window. So like, oh, they came through the window. But police are like, no. How the glass was, it didn't seem like they, busted from the outside, more on the inside.
But what if they left through the back door instead of coming in through the back door?
So they bust the window though. The window, it was important because the police said when the window was busted, it looked like it was busted on the inside, not on the outside, like somebody trying to come in. So like they bust on the inside, trying to come out, not in.
So you think they busted the window to try and leave?
No, I think they left the front door, or they probably just left. I really don't know per se. We never would get the for real answer.
I think they left through the back door. They didn't want to be seen.
They probably came through the back door too. You never know.
And then they just busted the window just to kind of throw off the investigators.
It's like they didn't hear her scream. That's weird to me. I feel like you would have heard her scream.
I just don't know how you stab somebody in their front door 17 times outside without anybody knowing it.
Right.
But all the neighbors saw was a car.
You saw the car, but you didn't hear the
You
screams?
didn't hear the screams. Like, who found her? The husband?
The husband found her. Like, you would have heard the screams to me. I'm sorry. If I'm getting stabbed 17 times, I'm fighting for my life. I'm screaming because it hurts. Because it seemed like it probably hurt, but I'm thinking about it.
And then whose DNA are they sending?
The person DNA that unalived her.
How?
They got it from her fingernails. So they have DNA. I wonder why the police are keeping it so quiet. What if the police is keeping quiet because it's a woman DNA? Because they went to a private lab to do all their research, but we don't know what they found. That's kind of hush-hush situation right there.
I don't think they would keep quiet because it's a woman. I think they haven't said anything because they don't know who it is. Regardless of the sex, a perpetrator is a perpetrator. They're going to try and find whoever committed the crime so they won't commit any more crimes.
Well, the only reason I say they're keeping it quiet is a woman, because it's an important detail that we can't know yet as people who watch now for this case. Because when they do the private DNA, it will tell you what race this person is, what their blood type is, what their sex is. It will tell you so much. Yeah. So it seemed like they will have to keep this quiet. And sometimes some DNA, I don't know if it's true, but I watch a lot of TV shows, they can tell you the whole face and everything, like how this person is, like what color hair they have. It's a lot DNA can tell you.
Hopefully they can find whoever the perpetrator is. I know a lot of people are taking Ancestry or 23andMe that can kind of link them to see if maybe they're related to the perpetrator and get to them like that. But justice needs to be served regardless, because this was not a good way to go. I don't think she saw it coming. She was wanting to go see her husband at the parlor, and she was attacked and unalived in her own home.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories out there. So let us know your guys' theories. Let us know if you agree with us. Let us know how you felt about the case. And we are on all social media platforms. We are on all podcast platforms and also YouTube. We drop a new episode every Friday. So please hit that notification bell so you do not miss out on a show. Please give us a 5-star rating and tell us how you feel about the podcast. I would love to hear everything. And this is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
Don't forget, everybody's a suspect.
So proven innocent.
Bye.
Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now, Lesbian Detectives. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready, let's go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, the Lesbian Detectives.